Or do you think that things which are unconscious can suffer?
No.
But if you're dead, you're unconscious.
Yes.
So you can't suffer if you're dead.
If I'm already dead, I couldn't suffer. No, there's nothing you could do to me after I've died.
Yeah,
But causing my death.
But when is it that you suffer from your death? You can't suffer now from your death because you're not dead. And you can't suffer when you're dead from your death because you can't suffer.
Yeah.
So there's no time at which it can be true that you're suffering because of your death.
Yeah, I don't think dead me is suffering.
I wrote the following text in response to Alex's comments here on death.
If we do in fact end at death, and our particular instance of consciousness ends, then yes, we as individuals will not suffer after we die. However, we must ask, what was it that caused me to exist? Answer, what caused you to exist was procreation. You didn't exist, but then two people copulated and caused you to exist. Eventually, an instance of conscious awareness began. Now, I need to do a short thought experiment to convey something about death. In this thought experiment, I'm going to use the concept of nothingness, sometimes referred to as peaceful oblivion, which is usually described as a silent black void. I don't think such a thing exists, but it will be useful for this thought experiment. I'll also use the concept of a soul in this silent black void. Imagine there's a single unnamed soul in said black void. But then on Earth, two people copulate and the female becomes pregnant. Now imagine that at the moment of conception, the soul is pulled out of the black void and transported into that female's egg. 9 months later, a baby is born, and this baby is you. It was the act of a biological human body coming to exist that pulled that unnamed soul from the void. This life was imposed onto the unnamed soul. Now rewind and imagine that unnamed soul is still in the void, and those two people don't exist, and actually no life exists. It's a universe completely devoid of all life. But then a single giraffe pops into existence. At the precise moment that giraffe popped into existence, that unnamed soul is, this time, transported into that giraffe body. But now let's say that giraffe body didn't pop into existence, but some other biological body did instead. Perhaps a rhino. No matter what biological body pops into existence, the soul is always pulled out of the void. No matter what one life or another is imposed, the soul cannot avoid being pulled out of the void, no matter what body happens to pop into existence. Now back to the version of the thought experiment where the soul became you. Imagine you die, and then that soul is once again transported into some other body. Each time a body dies, the soul is transported into a random body somewhere in the universe. There's nothing it can do to stop the imposition of one life or another. Some of the lives the soul experiences are overall good, while others are overall bad. Each time a body dies, the soul no longer has access to the memories that were contained in the brain that died. So the soul has no idea that it just experienced the death of a life. Each time a life is imposed, it's as if it's the very first life the soul has ever lived. A good life ends, and then the soul is transported into a life that will experience a great deal of suffering. And so, it cannot be guaranteed that the death of one life will be followed by a lack of suffering, since all the next life will include suffering at some point. Okay, that's it for the thought experiment. Now forget about souls and black voids. Instead, recognize that it was the birth of a brain that caused you to exist. Each time a brain is born in the universe, that's an instance of conscious awareness. So it was the coming to existence of consciousness that caused this life, the one watching this video, to follow your non-existence. You didn't exist, but then a life came to exist, and so consciousness ensued. So if you imagine a universe completely devoid of life, then a life pops into existence. What's stopping that consciousness from being imposed? Whether or not it's the life that's watching this video, or some other life, it will be imposed, because it's the only experience there is. If you cease to exist after death, what would stop some other life from being imposed in the same way the life that's watching this was imposed? It won't be you, but it'll be a life nonetheless. There'd be no escaping it, because there'd be no you to escape it. So does death lead to nothing to worry about? I'd say it's misleading to imply that death will lead to a state of nothing to worry about. Alex doesn't bring up what I've explained in this video, because he probably hasn't thought about this. If he did know about this, he wouldn't imply that death leads to a lack of suffering. He'd steer the conversation in a different direction, and start talking about how death will be followed by some other life somewhere in the universe. and therefore the objective experience of suffering will eventually follow death. In the video, he relies on death being followed by a perpetual unending lack of experience. But you already didn't exist, and your lack of existing didn't stop a life from following your non-existence. So why would your lack of existence after death suddenly have the ability to stop a life, some other random life, from following non-existence once again? It's more about the existence of consciousness itself that is what's responsible for causing experience to follow non-existence. In a universe devoid of consciousness, if consciousness suddenly came to exist, that consciousness would be imposed, since it's the only experience there is. Non-existence wouldn't be able to stop it from being imposed, because non-existence isn't a thing. Please make sure Alex sees this video. Share it with your friends and family that appreciate philosophy. Thank you for watching and listening. Have a good day.